Arkansas, Tennessee. Are you kidding me? It was one of the best games in all of college football. It was pretty much the biggest moment of Arkansas' season last year. You have a whole new dynamic this year. You have the great Bobby Petrino regaining the throne of the Arkansas head coaching job, going up against Tennessee. So we're going to break this game down. At the same time, we're going to go through and manually show you our rankings for this week. We do power rankings every Monday at 5 p.m. Central. I am live from Neyland Stadium, where it's going down. Both teams coming off a bye week, a pretty heavy bye week in the SEC, with LSU also being off, as well as a few other schools. And then, of course, College game day being at Arkansas and Vanderbilt. The game was kind of a snooze fest. No big deal. I am of the belief that Arkansas is a team that could get hot. And the reason is because it's harder in college football to put up big numbers. In Arkansas this year is a top 5 explosive play offense. Tennessee is a top 25 explosive play offense in all of college football. And then, of course, you go to the defensive side of the football. Tennessee has a really, really, really good defense, and Arkansas's defense is one of the worst we have ever seen in the history of college football. So, once again, every Monday, 5 p.m. Central, you guys know the story with the film studies. You can always support us via memberships as well. Let's start with, to me, the biggest thing I'm looking for between Arkansas and Tennessee, and that is tackling. Arkansas's defense is not a great tackling defense. I think, very simply put, Tennessee is going to do whatever they can to get the football out quickly and force Arkansas to go out there and actually tackle somebody. Then, of course, you have the other side of it, where Tennessee, of course, has one of the best deep passing attacks in all of college football. They love to get vertical. 14 Staley has been amazing. Mike Matthews continues to develop, and Chris Brazzell has been the best wide receiver in the SEC up to this point. You can make an argument for Cam Coleman. You can make an argument for Mario Craver. There's a lot of different guys you could point to, but up to this point, Brazzell has been amazing, and he's got a real shot to go out and win the Biletnikoff this year. Now, for the Tennessee defense, this was a defense last year that held Arkansas to 3 points all the way up until the third quarter, and then you still end up losing the game when Arkansas lost their starting quarterback, Taylor Green, who got hurt during the game. We can get into about if that was a dirty hit from Norman Lott or whatever. But the truth still remains the same for me when it comes to Tennessee's defense. Can they get some pressure on Taylor Green? So far this year, Tennessee's offense has been open to giving up the big play. We got an update today on Jermon McCoy for Pete Nakos of On 3. And Jermon McCoy is not going to be available, more than likely, for this game. It would have been really nice because, as many of you know, Arkansas, even though they lost all their great receivers from last year, this year's group of Arkansas's wide receivers have been mostly good. Raylan Sharp, of course, the drops have been big. Jalen Brown had some big drops, fumbles, and all of that. He's out for the season. Brown, number 3, is a good receiver for Arkansas. And then, of course, you get into Arkansas's tight end play this year. It's been really good. 83, good player, the A&M transfer. 88, also a really good H-back, fullback, tight end type of player. And then, of course, Arkansas's strongest position group is probably their running back room with Washington and Braylon Russell, 2 of the bigger running backs you will see in all of college football. Then we get to the overarching point. Could this be the battle of the 2 best play callers in the SEC? I think you could make a very strong case that it's that. Bobby Petrino going up against Josh Heupel. I know Lane Kiffin has a lot to say about that. Steve Sarkisian as well when it comes to the best play callers in the SEC. But to me, these two are the best. I'll just say it. They are the best because Lane, it is his offense. He doesn't necessarily call the plays. So there you go. Now, you take a look at the SEC overall. Just a quick recap from over the weekend. Georgia takes care of business versus Kentucky. We gave you the under in that game. That did not hit, but we also gave you first half Georgia. That did end up hitting. We also last week gave you Florida outright over Texas, and they were able to get it done there. We also said it was a trap line between Texas A&M and Mississippi State, and A&M, of course, took care of business to cover the spread. And then Alabama and Vanderbilt, we were leaning towards the over in this game, if I'm not mistaken. This obviously hit the under. And then we also gave you, and I felt like we were on the right side of this, but Oklahoma versus Kent State, the line was 44 and a half. I thought Kent State wasn't going to score a point. They did that very thing, but Oklahoma, even though they had 44 midway through the third quarter, they do not cover. That is a pretty brutal beat, if you ask me, but that is always a danger when you take a spread this big. And then while we told you to take it, the line did move up. So you did get some closing line value if you're able to get in at 44 and a half. It ended up getting at 46 and a half, but obviously neither ended up covering the spread. Now, the thing that is very interesting when you look at this from an Arkansas perspective, you do begin to see, I think this is big, when you break down Tennessee and the defense this year, the explosives are there for the taking. You can get deep on them. So I've gone back and forth in how I feel about this game, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the Week 7 lines as we normally do. And then we'll get to some of your comments here. Arkansas, right now, 12 and a half point favorites. Last year, Tennessee was 13 and a half point favorites. And this is a really, really high number. 69 and a half is a gigantic spread. Ginormous, gigantic, however you want to describe it. I would lean towards the under, but I'm just staying away from this for right now. And then obviously, as the week goes on, we actually do this on Power Hour LSU. We predict all of these games. I kind of want to do it on the SEC channel as well, because I do feel strongly about a few of these games, including Texas swallowing 2.5 here versus Oklahoma. Alabama 2.5 point favorites on the road versus Missouri. That feels very, very, very trappish, if you ask me. And to me, I think the line that shocks most people is LSU 9.5 versus South Carolina with the total at 44.5. This game opened at 41.5. So very interesting stuff there. We get to our first and only comment up to this point. This is kind of cool. They give me the option of actually putting the comments up on the screen. Granny Singapore PVP says Tennessee by 24. Game at Neyland, and the Vols are looking for a get back. You're right. The game is indeed at Neyland. It's also interesting that Arkansas has, I believe, only played one night game up to this point in the season. And this game, of course, kicks off in the afternoon. Tennessee, of course, has also mostly played day games. So very interesting stuff. LSU has basically only played night games, with their earliest kickoff being last week, of course, versus Ole Miss. Now, we're going to go ahead and get into our SEC power rankings for this week. And look, well, first shout out Jack. He said, let me call the place. I have enough hours on CFP 26. How about that? Sure, go for it. Play calling is not hard at all. I believe in you, Jack. If you don't believe in yourself, I believe in you. Now, we're going to go through and do our SEC power ranking tiers. And let's do this together. I normally just have this pre-made, but I got tired of my chat GPT not getting the job done. So let's get to it. Let's start off with Ole Miss here. I have Ole Miss as a B team right now in the SEC. I don't have them in my upper echelon just yet. That Tulane victory was very impressive. I think Tulane is a good team. And then, of course, you have LSU. They were able to win that game. But what do we know about some of the other teams on Ole Miss's schedule? Kentucky way under expectations. Arkansas way under expectations. LSU, I'm an LSU grad. I make my hay with my LSU channel, but how good is Ole Miss? Beating LSU with huge offensive issues. I don't know. So now Ole Miss gets this bye week, and now they have, to me, the game of the year in the SEC, which is, of course, versus Washington State. But then after that, they do play Georgia. So let me know, do you think Ole Miss is an A team, or should we keep them at the B tier? Let's move on to Auburn. I have Auburn in the C tier. It's clear when you watch Auburn, this is not a bad football team. This is not a bad football team at all. I don't think any one of us would think that Auburn is bad. They're also not good. They are a mid team. I think C is a fine grade for them. I might move them a little bit around in the final power rankings here. But Auburn right now, I would have to put as a C. The same thing could be said about Vanderbilt. Okay. Look, Vanderbilt, really good team, really good story. I do think we've talked them up quite a bit. Virginia Tech has been worse than we expected. They had the Lenore Sellers injury versus South Carolina. They probably still win that game. And then, of course, they played valiantly on the road versus Alabama. But I think right now you would have to make them a C team. This one's pretty easy. Kentucky is by far the worst team in the SEC right now. Missouri, a solid B. I think a lot of us feel the same way about Missouri up to this point in the season. I think Missouri is probably better than what their record actually says they are, because yes, they are 5-0. Yes, they have played an extremely soft schedule, but just using your eye test, this looks like it's a good football team. Now, compared to all the other teams in the SEC, I'll be honest, I've probably watched Missouri the least. They have not played in really any high profile games, even though it was really cool to see Missouri play the rivalry that they have been begging to bring back, which is Kansas in week 2. So for me right now, Missouri is a solid B team. I don't think you can make them an A team. One team I am putting in my A tier right now is Oklahoma. Best pass rush in the SEC, Oklahoma. Best quarterback in the SEC, Oklahoma. Even though he will not be on the field versus Texas, Mr. John Mateer, I would probably lean towards Oklahoma still being in the A tier for right now. Here's one thing about Oklahoma, though. How many games have you seen Oklahoma play amazing in? The Auburn game featured a fluke touchdown and a bunch of calls that went going their way. There was a bunch of missed throws from the quarterback of Auburn. We already talked about it a minute ago, Mr. Jackson Arnold. Cam Coleman was absolutely unconscious in that game. They beat a true freshman quarterback for Michigan and Bryce Underwood at home. I think for me, though, just using the eye test, I think Oklahoma deserves to be in the A tier. Now, we go to Arkansas. This is very clearly a D tier. I'm going to give them a D tier. It is harder to be good at offense than it is to be at defense. It's just Arkansas's defense is the absolute worst defense in the SEC. This one's pretty easy for me. Georgia's an A tier team. A tier team. They lose by 3 to the best team in the SEC. They did lose that game at home, but The way we talk about Georgia now drastically changes if a true freshman makes a very simple catch on a perfectly deep ball thrown by Gunnar Stockton. Clear A tier for Georgia. I undervalued them going into the season. LSU's the toughest spot for me. It's the toughest spot for me to be in. I'm going to make them a C. This is a sputtering offense right now. Sputtering. And the one thing about LSU not playing this past weekend was that I was really able to sit down and watch a lot of different teams in the SEC. LSU takes up so much of my time. I still can't believe that the LSU Tigers, with a first-round quarterback who's hurt and not playing that well, still struggles to get something going offensively. This is the worst offense in the SEC right now, the LSU Tigers, with the best defense in the SEC right now. So I am going to put LSU at the C tier. It's, to me, if you have the best offense and the worst defense, you have to be a C tier team. I need to be a little bit more complete to put you in the B tier. Now, if they beat South Carolina this weekend, who is also, to me, a D-list team. I've gone back and forth on South Carolina with C or D. One loss, of course, with Sellers getting hurt. We could get into if that would have really made that big of a difference versus Vanderbilt. But their only other loss was a road loss to a team from the B tier. I have to put South Carolina there in the D tier. Let's go to Mississippi State. Are we going here with the C tier? It's a D tier. Very clearly, this is a team that was very close to pulling off arguably the best win in the SEC this year over Tennessee at home. That game was very strange. That was very, very, very strange. They go on the road to the toughest environment in the SEC at night, which is Texas A&M, right? No, I'm kidding. Of course, it's Tiger Stadium. But taking that out of the equation, out of all the places I've been to, the two most intimidating places, Texas A&M and Florida. And Mississippi State goes on the road and gets bludgeoned by one of our A-tier teams in Texas A&M. Mississippi State, of course, has a pretty massive SEC win. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment because it has been a talking point about the Big 12 with Arizona State. Texas A&M has to be an A-tier team. They have to be. Have to be. UTSA, win. Utah State, win. They go on the road and beat a good Notre Dame team. Early bye week, then they take care of business versus Auburn. The only reason that game was close was a 90 gazillion yard interception return. And for me, A&M, even after losing all that talent up front, Torian York and that defense might be the best defense in the SEC. I would probably still lean LSU, but Texas A&M, I have them in my A tier. This is also a team that's outkicked its coverage this year. I also wasn't really that gung-ho about Texas A&M going into the season because of all they lost on the defensive line. Got to put Texas A&M in the A tier right now, though. I kind of want to make them a B, but there you go. Florida. Oh, man. This is going to be probably my most controversial ranking. C tier. C tier team. What has Florida done this year? Lost to USF. Lost to LSU. Lost to Miami. But this is another case where defensively, they are really, really, really good, as we saw this past weekend. Offensively, they are starting to get better. They are starting to get healthier. I've got to go with Florida in the C tier. The talent is there. The coaching hasn't been there. The quarterback play hasn't been there. But we get a huge step in the right direction in both of those departments this past weekend. Of course, it helped with Florida being at home, and now they go on the road and play Texas A&M. Now, here's what's weird about Florida going on the road to play Texas A&M. If Florida somehow, some way wins out, they're going to the college football playoff. That's what's crazy, and that's the benefit of playing a really difficult schedule. Now, I wasn't high on Florida going into the season. I was under their win total going into the season. But you put Dallas Wilson on this offense, they're different. Number 6, true freshman. Arguably the best true freshman receiver in the SEC. He's good. He's really, really, really good. Tennessee, A tier. A tier team, the Volunteers. I am a little bit higher on Tennessee than most. This was also a team I had a slight fade on going into the season, which is crazy because I'm a Josh Heupel fanboy. Tennessee, A tier. We've talked plenty about them up to this point. Then we get to Texas. Texas is a pretty clear C tier team. One thing working against Texas when it comes to their season evaluation, obviously they have the most disappointing quarterback in the SEC. They have played 3 non-Power 5 teams at home, and they have played 2 really good teams on the road. Florida, to me, is a good team, and Ohio State is the best team. You play them on the road, that is difficult. And this was Florida coming off a bye week. So, for me, I'll put Texas in that C tier for right now. Then we get to Alabama, A tier team. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. The Florida State loss looks worse in retrospect, but it's a week 1 loss versus an offensive coordinator who freaking hates your guts and Gus Malzahn. So for right now, I have 5 A tier teams. I decided to do this live and just talk this out live. I'm already talking myself into a few different moves. I'm leaning towards moving Missouri down here. Okay. And I want to order this the way that I want to order this. I think Alabama very clearly is the number 1 team. Georgia very clearly is the number 2 team. A&M, number 3 team. Okay. And then after that, Oklahoma with Mateer at 4, Tennessee at 5, Ole Miss at 6, LSU ahead of Vanderbilt for now, LSU ahead of Auburn. Missouri ahead of both of these schools. I didn't know I could move these back and forth. Then this is probably how I would have it here. South Carolina ahead of Arkansas, Mississippi State ahead of Arkansas, and there you go. Let's get to your comments. Gaming Heavy says, I agree with the C. I think that was you referencing LSU. It's tough. It's really, really, really tough. If LSU had any type of offense, let's just say they were a good offense, they're probably an A tier team. But I just can't. I just can't get there. And it's also important when you do these rankings that you also see how teams perform when they do win. Okay? Like, let's take Tennessee, for instance. They lost a close home game that they should have won versus Georgia. And then they lost a road close game that many thought that they should have lost. So to me, that kind of cancels each other out. And then I look at the other 3 games. They blow Syracuse out. Then they blow ETSU out. They blow UAB out. I think it's something. I don't think it's everything. I think it's something that you're able to still look good when you're playing against lesser competition. Ole Miss is a very interesting case study because they are basically the only team here that's had a drastic shift at QB based on their own decision making, right? So Simmons gets hurt, Chambliss is better. How does Chambliss change the Kentucky game where Ole Miss was very lucky to win that game on the road versus, to me, by far the worst team in the SEC? It is a different game. Simmons was not good in that game. So I'm fine with Ole Miss being in their own tier of B because their sample size is way smaller when you have such a drastic shift at the quarterback position. But I do think A&M blowing the brakes off a decent Mississippi State team. I don't think any of the teams in Tier D are bad at all. I think the only bad team is Kentucky. Um, Texas A&M just bludgeoning them was really impressive. Really impressive. And then, of course, the toughest team to rank is Oklahoma because they don't have John Mateer. And I do think Texas takes care of business versus them this weekend. But yeah, I think week 5 is the toughest. And I think it's pretty clear up to this point that when you look at week 6, this is the full schedule. You take a look at week 6. Actually, I think it'd be better if we did it like this. Boom. And this weekend will make the power rankings a lot easier. And I've always said that in the SEC, with the way that the schedules are now, and obviously this will change next year, most SEC schools have played no more than 5 games. So most SEC schools have already had a bye week, and most SEC schools have only played 3 Power 4 teams through the 5 weeks, meaning there are 2 rent-a-wins that are on the schedule. So we really only have 3 games to choose from. This next week evens the playing field because you notice there are no teams in the SEC playing a non-Power 4 team outside of Ole Miss. And every other SEC team that's playing is playing another SEC team. So to me, when it comes to power rankings and just rankings in general, the only way you could truly rank these teams is if you have a larger sample. And this is the largest sample you will get outside of course, the next week and the next week. I didn't say that smoothly at all, but this is the game that makes things very even for everybody in the SEC. Every SEC team will have played a road game by now versus another SEC team, and a home game by now versus another SEC team. So it really is that big of a weekend. Of course, Texas would be the only school that's not had an SEC home game, but that's on their own choosing, of course, playing the Red River Shootout. I'll call it by its actual name in Dallas every year. So there you go. Man, I suck. I cannot. I've tried to make this Monday 5 p.m. live stream something. I stink. I am not compelling enough to generate an audience. It's me. I'm terrible. It's me. I'm the problem. I'm kidding. But I appreciate all the love on the film reviews. I don't know what it is. I feel like I am way better doing this than I am at the actual film reviews. Let's go to Granny Singapore. I feel better with the LSU ahead of Mizzou. No, I'm with you there as well. It's interesting. Going into the season, you would have thought by far up to this point that LSU would have played a way more difficult schedule than Missouri. But that's not what's happened. It's not what's happened at all. The schedules have been relatively even. Kansas, if they were to play Syracuse today, would probably be favored. South Carolina, if they were to play Florida today, would probably be favored. So once again, it's really tough when LSU schedule's very difficult at the beginning of the season. Missouri schedule's really soft at the early portion of the season. Okay? Now, let's go to here. Now, this is interesting. Casey said, I saw a lot of chatter that statistically Cam Ward is Jamarcus Russell level bad. Let's talk about it. Cam freaking Ward. I was high on Cam Ward. Now, both him and Jay Russ are very different. Like Cam Ward actually works hard. Jamarcus Russell, by his own admission, as painful as it is for me, did not. And Cam Ward athletically is not close to Jay Russ when it comes to size and arm strength. Jay Russ has the best arm I've ever seen, and he was 6'3", 6'4". Cam Ward, of course, is like 6'1", if you will, but he's a big guy, thick guy. And neither are runners, but they both can indeed run. So the biggest difference between the two of them is obviously between the years. Now, the funniest thing about Cam Ward is that when it comes to his anticipation going into this past season, it was actually really good. You would see him make some nasty rips at Miami, throwing digs over the middle. But his accuracy has been horrendous. And the Titans had no business winning that game versus the Cardinals. And this sounds like hyperbole, but that was the worst loss to me in NFL history, what the Cardinals did versus the Titans. So yeah, up to this point, it's been bad. I do feel the Titans supporting cast has been disappointing, but Cam has also been disappointing because the preseason tape was really good. It really was good. And Cam was insanely productive in college. Jamarcus Russell was not. So yeah, I as crazy as this sounds, I do think Cam Ward turns it around and becomes a decent NFL quarterback. But yes, it's really bad. It's really, really, really bad right now. I do want to touch on something. This was a pretty big story in the SEC. Pretty big, actually. Auburn has elected to move its home game versus Baylor next season to Atlanta. And Auburn's going to get a $5 million check to do it. So Auburn played a road game versus Baylor to start this season, and they win. And next year, Atlanta always likes to host a season opening game. I have gotten to interview and talk to the overseers that do these neutral site games. And, it really is crazy, the economics of it, that Auburn is willing to take all that money out of its local economy to screw over its own town, if you will, for a $5 million check to play a neutral site game that drastically decreases your chance of winning a game. Now, I say drastic, it just depends on your definition of drastic, but it goes from, like a 3-point shift in the point spread to like a point and a half because it is a longer trip for Baylor fans to make to Atlanta, but it makes it an easier trip to Atlanta because, of course, it's easier to just fly into Atlanta. This shit bothers me in a major way because I'm so anti-playoff in everything. I think playoffs, the word playoffs, really hurts American sports. Okay, and Casey and I are really close friends, and we're both Liverpool fans. And the thought of taking a Liverpool true home game away, let's just say Jerry Jones calls Liverpool and says, "Hey, come play an actual EPL match. We'll give you $10 million to come play it in Dallas." I do think that eventually does happen, by the way. Um, Liverpool probably says no, even if it was against like Stoke City or some shit like that. True home games matter so much. They're so scarce. And the fact that one of these gets taken away for Auburn for Auburn fans sucks. It also sucks. Actually, feel more for the Baylor fans that they don't get to experience Jordan-Hare Stadium. Jordan-Hare Stadium is so damn good. Every SEC stadium is so good. Okay, there's not really many bad SEC stadiums. I've been to a good chunk of them, and they're all good. That Jordan-Hare really is mind-blowingly good. It's that good. Like the production, and I went in 2010. I went in 2010. So I say all that playoff stuff because the thing that I hate about an expanded playoff in college football is that, yes, the first rounds are played in the home stadiums, but that's going to change. The more we take away the importance of playing these games in small college towns, the more it rips away at the fabric of what makes the sport great. Now, you know what's funny, Granny Singapore? My wife and her mother are going to a Keith Urban concert that is the same day of LSU Vanderbilt in Nashville. And I would probably go, but I have a Friday night job calling high school football games. But part of me, why I wouldn't want to go, is that many people say this. Now, I know they're going through a construction project, but it could just be that the teams are bad. With the talent of 2019 LSU, which of these QBs likely would have won the national championship in place of Joe Burrow? Shador Sanders, no. Ryan Mallett, no. Matthew Stafford, they still win the national championship with Matthew Stafford. They do not go undefeated. Kevin Gaines, that's hilarious. Yes. Johnny Manziel, they go undefeated. Nico, UCLA. No, they lose 2 or 3 games with Nico. Blaine Gabbert, that's an interesting one. Actually, no, the Johnny Manziel, I think they lose 1 game. I do. Nico, UCLA, they lose 3 games, and Blaine Gabbert, they lose 2 games with Blaine Gabbert. But Matthew Stafford, yes, out of all of these quarterbacks, I would say Matthew Stafford. I don't know how good of a fit Manziel would have been in the offense that LSU ran. Now, he would still put up ridiculous numbers, and he would have won the Heisman in that offense. But, what was the the supporting cast for A&M was Mike Evans, who, let's be honest, is in the tier of Chase and Jefferson. And then Ryan Swope, who's really good. Okay. But Ryan Swope would have been wide receiver 4 on 2019 LSU. And then Manziel's running back was what, Christian Michael, who would have been RB2 on LSU as well. Offensive line, they're probably pretty equal. But Manziel and Burrow are just so different as QBs. Matthew Stafford's interesting though. His Georgia career is really incomplete because, if they didn't choke, they would have hosted 07 LSU in the SEC championship game in Atlanta versus LSU's backup, and that game is very interesting, to say the least. Okay. So we'll take a few more. Once again, let people know Mondays at 5 p.m. we are live. We're not just a film study channel. Let's see. But yeah, I guess I need to go to the Vandy Stadium for me to really determine if it is boo boo. You know what else is boo boo? The roses that Outcast sang about. Now that was also boo boo. That was kind of lame, but I thought it was cool. This might have been it. I had a Tennessee background instead of a Arkansas backdrop. It's interesting. Out of all the SEC stadiums that I have as like backups, I could go to Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss. The only one of these that's empty is Arkansas's. I think that's a pretty fitting description of how everything is going right now for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, next thing. I don't know if there's any crossover or interest in this. It might only apply to Casey, but I am thinking about starting an EPL channel. I really am, because the funny thing is with all the college football work that I do, I can't watch the EPL. I can because the games aren't on as the same at the same time, but I'm doing so much work in football. I work in high school football. I work in college football. I work in the NFL. I'm doing an NFL stream tonight on the NFL channel. I'm going to see if I could start an EPL channel. Now, I don't know if it's going to be any good because, like, I don't know nearly as many players at the EPL level. But I will tell you this from the bottom of my heart, and this will fly over the heads of people who don't give a shite about soccer. There is no team, not the Florida Gators, not the Alabama Crimson Tide, not the Atlanta Falcons. There's no team I hate more than Man City. Holy crap. I hate Man City. I am willing to lose friendships if that friend is a Man City fan. I really only have one friend that is a Man City fan, and the only reason I have not lost him as a friend is that he is my cousin. And I love him. But If you are a Man City fan, you deserve to lose everything. You really do. You don't deserve to breathe the same air that I breathe and that normal people actually do breathe. I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, wish the worst for you. I hope one day you go to a restaurant and you order a sloppy Joe and it actually be explosive bloody diarrhea in there. That's how much I hate Man City fans. More than anything else, more than anything else, I cannot, cannot stand Man City fans. They they don't deserve to be around any of us. Think of the worst SEC fan base. Man City fans are worse than that. Why? Well, they might not be as vitriolic as some of the burner accounts out there in the SEC. It's that nothing about Man City is interesting. They have never had an interesting player play for their school or team, whatever. The only thing that's been interesting is their coaches. God, I hate Man City. I will do anything, anything for me to never think about Man City again. But I have to because they're Man City. They drive me insane. And another thing I hate about Man City, why I hate them so much, it's because my team had the most points for a second place team in the history of the EPL, and that was my favorite Liverpool team of all time. And they finished second because Man City is Man City, and VAR sucks. So if you are a Man City fan, don't ever come back to my channel. I will happily live without you. If there are 10,000 Man City fans that are like, you know what, I'm going to get into SEC football and watch Carter the Power. Even if those 10,000 fans all donated to my channel, please do. And then half of it would go to an actual worthy cause. And the other half of it I would use to wipe my ass at night. That's how worthless I think Man City fans are. Dude, I hate them from every depth of my being, every depth of my soul. Hate Man City, hate them. That's right. There's not, and this is something I hate about City fans. They're the ultimate bandwagon fans, ultimate bandwagon fans. And technically, I'm a bandwagon Liverpool fan, but that was when they won one trophy in '05, and I was like, okay, this is going to be my team. So I guess I don't know. I just hate Man City. I feel like there needs to be things in life and in sports that you just hate. I hate them. It's hard for me to just hate SEC fan bases. I have to find something for me to hate. Some of this is just part of my heart that needs hatred to go towards. And Man City takes up 99% of my hate. The other 1% of my hate is people that drive slow in the left lane. Everything else outside of real, like, world things that you should hate, Man City is up there. All right, that'll do it for me. Big thanks to Granny Singapore. If you want more of me, I doubt you do. You can watch. I'm live tonight for the Chiefs and the Jaguars NFL game on Power Hour NFL. Those two fan bases support my NFL film studies more than anything, so we're testing out a live stream there. So we will see you there. It is Power Hour SEC. Boom. Oh, Granny, I'm straight. I know that it's. So I'll explain what's actually happening. The YouTube algorithm gets confused when, and it could just be that my streams just aren't good. I don't know. I need to be better. But the YouTube algorithm gets confused if you do like film study football breakdowns, and then you do a live stream. It's hard. It takes a while. Like, it's easier to do that on the LSU channel because it's all under one umbrella. Here, it's a little bit different because I cover all the teams, and then I'm also doing two completely different styles of content. That's how it was explained to me, but it could be more than that. It could just be that I'm not pretty enough. That could be it. But once again, every Monday, 5 p.m. Central. And tonight, oh, my mama Kay made some spaghetti and meatballs. Let's go. Now, one final thing. Actually, I'm going to save this for next week. But I want to make one announcement to Fox Sports. If you need a commentator for upcoming games, I am indeed available. Play-by-play or color commentary, because I've heard there might be an opening there because of some events that transpired. So yeah, I'll happily send in the high school games I've been calling, and I guarantee you I'll come and do a damn good job. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, did it not end? I gotta hit this. There you go. Huh?